is a statute, a part of the General Law Village Act that addresses the process for disincorporation. And in general, there are a couple of approaches that can be taken to the issue of disincorporation or petition for disincorporation has been filed. One is where the council, and this is, you need some special action to do this. The council opts for a commission to be appointed. There will be 3 people appointed by the village and 3 people appointed by the township. And they would go over this over the course of the next year and try to come up with some sort of a plan. And if they can come up with some sort of a plan, then it goes to the voters, and then in that case, for the plan to be adopted for disincorporation, there'd have to be a vote of more than 50% of the people in the village in favor of the plan, and more than 50% of the people in the township outside of the village in favor of the plan. There will be no plan, however, unless the village council opts to go with a plan this evening. And the statute says that the village council has to address this issue at the first regular meeting following the filing of an approval by the township clerk of the petition for disincorporation. If the council opts for a plan this evening, then you'd have to appoint 3 people to the commission, and the township would have to appoint 3, and have to go through the process of putting together a plan and so on. And the vote would take place sometime in the next year. If the council does not opt to go with this approach, then there will be no plan, but we move to an election at the general election in November on whether or not there be dissolution. And in that case, there would have to be 2/3 or greater vote of the combined folks in the village and in the township outside the village in favor of dissolution, or there would be no dissolution. So that essentially is the essence of it. And of course, if we go with the plan, we're going to be going through this over the next year, up and down, up and down, up and down. But we have a plan. If we do not adopt a resolution this evening adopting a plan, then we won't have a plan, but we'll have a resolution by November.
But then the people, if they decide they want to stay as a separate village municipality, then we don't need a plan to disincorporate because we want to stay in an incorporated village. Wouldn't that be the case? It depends on what the voters would think.
Well,
They might not want to disincorporate. I
think
just had hoped that when we appointed trustees, we'd have 3 people sitting at the table tonight when we got to number 5, and because by living in the village, they know as much as the rest of us do about the pros and cons of should we stay a municipality or not.
I think at this point, you call for a motion to move with the approach for disincorporation that involves a plan, and then look for a second. If there is no second, there is no resolution, and we move to an election in the fall. Or if there's a second, then there'd be a vote, and it would be, the majority vote. There would have to be a majority vote in favor of the resolution for there to be a plan.
So are there questions or comments? I mean,
I'd like to get the question asked, it's been since 58, like, over a half a century we've been talking about it, so let the people decide. If they say, no to disincorporation, then we continue the way we've always run things, and if they want to disincorporate, then they figure what to do in case of that eventuality.
my concern is what comes next. I mean, even Nathan said it would be could be 5 years, possibly more, before this place, if Lorien and the township are willing to incorporate as a city. And to the best of my knowledge, neither Lorien nor the township have indicated that they are agreeable to that. So my concern is that the village dissolve. Should there ever be discussions to form a city, the village of Calumet would have no representation. Personally, I feel that if there were discussions to form a city, I would want the village of Calumet to be an equal partner with the township and the village of Lorien. You know, I want my community to be represented. I don't want to be folded into the township and hope that the township represents my interests. And again, that's my opinion, but that's how I feel.
That's good, I like people to have a voice, and everybody should be listened to.
I have a comment on this as well. I agree with President Geisler 100%. The people should have a say in what they want. The problem I have with this whole situation is, if this was something that the township had come to the village of Calumet and Lorien had come to us and everybody was talking about this and decided that it would be the best fix for everybody, and let it go to the people and let the people decide, I'd have a whole different opinion. But this is not the way this was done. This was done just out of the blue without even conferring with the township and or the village of Lorien. And I think that's underhanded the way it was done. It should have been done by talking to those other jurisdictions. I don't like the way it was done. And I agree with President Geisler that, you know, if we ever did dissolve, we'd be part of the township, and we would have zero say in what goes on in this jurisdiction. There wouldn't be any more, you know, the DDA wouldn't have a whole lot of say. I don't know what would happen to the national park. I don't know, because we would just be absorbed into the township. This should have, if this kind of thing was going to happen ever in the future, and it's been talked about, like you said, since 1958, I don't know, I've lived here since 74, and I haven't heard big talk about it, I don't know. But all jurisdictions should have gotten together before this plan was just put out there and people didn't even know about it.
Wasn't there a meeting last
I'm
December?
speaking. No, we never had a meeting with the township, we never had a meeting with the village of Lorien. All of a sudden, it was just thrown out there, and the people that signed the petition that were under the assumption that they signed it, that, and it went through, that we were just going to become this, you know, big old unit, and that is not the case. We would just be absorbed into the township. They were led to believe that it's going to be part of the village of Lorien, and that is an absolute, you know, dishonest assertion. I just wish things would have been done better, because I'm a true believer in the people making the decision, but this whole process was done, I believe, underhanded and very vindictively. And that's my opinion. Wendy?
I agree with Dave and Verge. I've lived here longer here than I lived where I was born in Detroit. And I have sat on council before. There has always been talk that we should become one, maybe. But there has never been talk that I have ever heard of for the village to become disincorporated. I guess, Peg, I'm disappointed. Because you have always said this has been about your beloved village. Right now, I don't feel you're feeling that way. I did speak to people that you spoke to in the housing. Just like Bridge said, they were under the belief that Lorium, they were gonna go to Lorium and everything would be hunky-dory. They believe that supposedly Lorium would take over our streets, all that kind of stuff. If we went into the township, who's gonna take care of our streets? Tell me. Does the county pick up snow and carry it out of town like our village does? No. So that would mean, okay, I can't imagine what Fifth Street would look like, or Sixth Street. Yes, I know our residents, they don't get hauled out of town as much, but I have a hard time thinking of what the old pictures that I've seen back in the heyday, and I have some, where the mound of snow is in the center and the horses are going down and breaking their legs and all that. I'm sad that the few people, I don't know how many of you, want to disincorporate our village. I think we all need to learn to work together. We can disagree on things, and if the vote goes, that doesn't work, then that's the voice of the council. The people voted us in to make that decision. I sit here and I try to make decisions for the people of this village, not for myself, nothing that I would gain from it. Even when I owned a business, I didn't make decisions for me to gain from it, which I could have, but what's best for the village? And right now, I do not believe this is the best thing for the village. My opinion.
Thanks. Please.
I'd like to respond. The question has come up through the years, off and on. If there was a group that bring back Calumet, we trustees weren't invited to go to that meeting. I didn't even know about it. There was another one where Michigan Tech put on a presentation in December about consolidation. I didn't know about it until I think somebody told me, and that day I scrambled to get there because I thought it would be important that a trustee would know what was going on in her community, that she's supposed to represent all the people. And I helped circulate that question, that ballot, because I wanted the question to go to the people. It had nothing about becoming a magnificent city. It was, should the village be disincorporated? You can ask anyone I spoke to, and that was the question. It wasn't to consolidate with Lorium or the township or anything. Is the village serving the needs of the people? And I heard so much that it has not been. It has been a small little group just reaping the benefits for their small little group, that I want the will of the people to be heard, and my term's almost done. So I say the power to the people, and whether they like what I've got to say or I like what they've got to say, if the community belongs to everyone, and there should be no harm in asking a question and let the majority make the decision.
I agree with you.
But they leave out the people they don't like that might ask a question, and I think it's been so unfair for so long that we've got to get back on track. And with the new trustees coming in, I'm hoping that they will be respectful and polite and serve the best interest of everyone. You say you have not done anything. I've never applied for a grant, nothing. I've never asked for the village. I've paid my taxes, garbage, and and so you say you haven't looked out for yourself. I would hope that every trustee looks out for the greater good of the people and is not for self-serving motives.
That's why I said it.
Yeah.
The problem with this whole conversation is something like this was going to be put out there for the people. Other jurisdictions, and Calumet Township is the one that's most affected, they would absorb the village of Calumet. out of respect and dignity and not underhandedness, they should have been notified, like, how do you feel about this? And how do the residents of your area feel about this, okay? It was done underhandedly, Peggy, I'm sorry, it was done spiteful.
Nothing
and
I
underhandedly.
have ever
And you're not
done
gonna
is
change-
underhanded.
You just said you weren't invited to meetings, you're mad, you just answered
No, I said
my question.
I wasn't, I wanted the public.
And
I'm
again,
sorry.
let's discuss the issue.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes,
discuss
it
the
was
issue.
done, it was done the wrong way. If it needed to be brought to the people, it should have been done the right way. It was done because certain people didn't like a vote back in December, January, and certain people
That's
have
not-
an axe to
Okay,
grind.
That's what
again,
you
again,
just asked the
order,
people
order.
what they
Right.
think.
Let me
I'm
ask,
sorry, but
is
I'm
is there a vote to adopt a resolution, or is there a motion to adopt a resolution to create a disincorporation commission? So is there a motion? All right, there is no motion, so the council has decided then not to, should we specifically say we don't want to, should we?
So
We have to have-
there will be no dissolution commission because there has been no resolution
made to do it.
adopted by the council to that effect.
All right, okay. All right, then moving on.
But I would certainly appreciate an opportunity to give the Gazette an interview so that my motives, if they've ever been perceived by anyone as underhanded, I have a chance to vindicate myself and the rationale and what I am doing in this community for the good of the people.
Nobody on the village council or the village knew about this petition. Nobody in the township knew about this petition. Nobody in the village of Northern knew that it was actually happening until it happened. That's underhandedness, Peggy. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. I sit as a trustee at this table, and I am ashamed of everything that's going on. I'm ashamed of it.
Okay, so we've already gone through this, so let's move on. Okay, so the next thing is,
Mr. President?
yes. You really shouldn't,
No.
it's really not an appropriate time.
Okay.
All right. You want to talk to me afterwards, that's fine. Okay. All right, so the next item is an invoice for the almost completion of the master plan. And, you know, as long as we're discussing this, you know, Colleen, do you want to talk about the planning commission?
Oh, sure,
Okay, and where we are?
sure. Did everyone get a copy of your minutes from the plan?
Did they get the minutes, Joe? Do they have the minutes from the planning commission?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
They're,
I gotta find
they're, should have been like this, like that, in that text file I gave you, planning commission.
Okay, wait a minute.
I don't have it.
Well, if verbally you want to start running through them.
Sure. Do you want me to read it?
No, you don't have to, I mean, unless,
Oh,
Where is it?
this one.
I know, but-
What's the date on it?
Yeah.
June
Is
12th.
that the beginning?
Yes, it does that.
no, they're,
You didn't give me it. I didn't.
Is it a packet?
no, it's not in the
No, it's
packet.
not.
I get that one.
Oh,
Oh, I didn't even saw this.
It was in a separate
No, I don't
packet.
have this.
Right.
I think this stuff I just brought. Is this it?
Economic development plan?
Maybe it's part of that.
I don't have anything else.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Oh,
This is not in the packet? Oh,
No, that was not in the packet.
no,
No.
It wasn't,
thanks.
it wasn't received on time.
All right, so the planning commission met on June 12th at 2018 at 5:30 PM here. Colleen Colby was there, and the other commissioners attending were John Arnold, Chris Green, and Dave Eisler. No one was absent, and we do have one vacancy. We had one member of the public. We accepted our previous month's agenda and the month before that. We had no petitions from the public. We accepted the minutes, and I do have one edit on there. Should I
That's fine.
wait?
Yeah, just, you can give it to me and I'll fix it.
All right. We approved the minutes from the last two meetings. We discussed the master plan, which looked very good. We agreed that prior to the presentation of the document to the village council in July for approval, that trustees submit their questions to the chair of the planning commission in writing so that we can address them during that meeting. We went through the entire document. Each one of us had our own printed copies. Thank you, Joe. And we mainly just circled small typographic errors like putting periods in or taking periods out or whatever. And then we voted unanimously to submit the document to the village council for approval.
So it's not 100%, right? It's 90%
Oh,
still?
it's like 99%.
Oh, so it,
There's no content.
You will get one more copy though. You will get one more copy.
There's no content change.
You know, well, the language removed, making the clerk and treasurer appointed, that
Yes,
was removed.
yes.
It still says that the village should be served by a manager, so that's,
should be is not will be.
I actually don't have a copy of mine with me. But
Well, and again, if you have questions or you want
Right.
things removed in July, that's the opportunity for the council to either approve it or not. And if you make edits to it that are significant, then it has to go back to the planning commission for them to reapprove it, and then it comes back to the council. So until the council approves, until the planning commission approves it, and the council approves it, it keeps going back and forth. So again, if there are things that you would like to see deleted, again, you should address, write them down, and they can be discussed in July.
so you bring it up at your next meeting?
no, because we've already approved it.
Okay.
So it's not, the ball's in your court now.
So you just want
Oh.
approval from us tonight.
So at our next
Oh, no,
meeting, we.
I'm
No,
just
no,
trying to
she's
make sure.
letting us know that if we have any questions, by their next meeting, have any of your changes that you would like to see written down so they can address it at their meeting, right?
Well, and it's actually to address it, I mean, we should know it, and we'll address it at our meeting, but again, the document that we've approved is now coming to the council. And so again, if something is going to be taken out or is going to be changed significantly, then it has to, if the council doesn't approve it, then it has to go back to planning commission.
When will the final print be done?
I'm meeting with Pat Coleman early next week, and so you should have it probably midweek next week.
Okay.
So you should have it 3 weeks before the council meeting.
For $16,000.
And then we do need
No
a
grammar errors, I'm just
colored
saying.
copy.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
You very
Yeah, absolutely.
Because between April 5 and June 8, there were only 3 changes. Like Williams Parts and Supplies was changed from Williams Machine. There were, minuscule changes, only 3 in the first 50 pages. So I just have to look beyond page 50.
You might want to wait until you actually get the final copy.
The final,
Because that's not the final copy.
Oh,
That's, you have the one that we marked up. So you don't have the one that Pat will
I
finish.
think we have that
the one,
already.
final draft June 8?
No, not if Dave is still going to get it.
It's a draft, it's still a draft. And I mean, that, I guess at this point, that is the way we adopted, right?
No, that was made June 8th, they met June 12th, they
Oh,
made
okay, so-
changes
okay,
June
yeah.
12th.
So that is not the final. There
You
will
mean
be
like
one
June
more.
13th
Yeah.
version?
Okay, so we do nothing until we get
Right.
a new copy. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Rich.
Not a problem.
As far as my Citizen Planner online course goes, I am almost done with my presentation. I am not ready to leave it tonight, but you're not ready for it either, so that's okay.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that we're still on for July. If not, I can postpone it till August. But
I think July.
Let's see what let's see what our agenda looks like, so, yeah.
all right.
So any questions for Colleen? All right, then the next thing is we did get an invoice from Pat Coleman, and so I just want to get approval to pay the invoice, it looks like in the amount of $3,200, so.
That's for 95% of it,
Right.
not for the entire one.
No, there'll still be one more invoice.
Yeah,
So
so he was in our
He
packet.
was paid by 12,000, now
We-
it's 3, so there'll be a residue of about 1,000.
There'll be an amount due of about $800 for the last thing.
Pat Coleman?
It's this invoice where it says North 45.
So we have paid him $15,200, this is an invoice for $3,200, and that will mean that there'll be $800 still to be paid. And he-
I thought the total contract was for 16,000.
It is. So again, we paid him 12,
Oh,
this would
okay.
approve 3,200, that's 15,200. Yeah, okay.
I make the motion, we pay this invoice for $3,200 to
Sandy?
North 45.
Okay, is there a second?
Support.
Peggy, okay. Do roll call, so Sandy,
Yes.
Virg,
Yes.
Peggy,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, any other questions for Colin? Okay.
I have
Is-
actually one more thing to bring up.
Oh, yeah,
If you
please.
don't mind.
No, it's your floor.
Yeah, okay, once the master plan is approved, the next step for us will be to have someone look at the zoning laws. And Pat has been willing to do the job. I'm not sure you want to hire him. I mean, if you have somebody else in mind, I'm open to that. But I'd like to move forward with zoning because it all ties together. Master plan, zoning, it's all one big picture. And
The big thing will be financing it. You know, it's 10 to 12 grand, and that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out where it's gonna come from.
Didn't we just become to do this? When did we do this last? Didn't we have like a zoning?
79, I think.
No, there's a zoning ordinance, I think it's the 90s, the 90s.
Yeah, the late 97, 98.
Yeah, there's, you know, it's like triaging things, you know?
I respect it's a difficult position. I'm just giving you a heads up, that's all.
I have to swallow to just pay this, to be honest with you. I have to swallow
Well,
hard.
it's so much better when we start implementing those things.
Other communities are also revising their zoning. I've noticed in the paper. Yeah. It's a
But-
big issue.
You know, I've looked that up, but as part of the, you know, your planning commission, it says in the law that you guys can kind of get involved in that as well. And are you aware of that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so it sounds like that would be like, you know, like a cheaper deal if you need a little bit of help from, say, you know, maybe our attorney or maybe somebody, it would be a whole lot cheaper if you could get some volunteers to kind of look at it.
We can certainly look it over, we can compare them with other
There
communities.
you go.
I mean, it wouldn't,
That's just a suggestion, and it would help you, and it would save a lot of money for the village, if
Yeah.
anybody's willing to do that.
I will bring it up with my committee and see how they feel about it. Because it is legal. and
It is
none of us
legal.
are law- None of us is a lawyer.
No, but I mean, you could, the way that it is now, everything is on the internet, you can go to a comparable small village and you can look and, you know, it shouldn't be,
See what their plan
yeah,
is.
see what their plan is and, you know, kind of weed it down to where it's like in a reasonable thing.
Say if we found a really good
In your
one
spare time,
for
right?
zoning, we need to be able to,
So,
say if we found
shouldn't have to
a
reinvent
village
the
that
wheel
has a
first,
good
right?
zoning. Yeah, but
Ding, ding, ding.
how their full power village, would we be able to just adopt it?
Hmm.
I drafted a restatement of two portions of the existing zoning ordinance. One dealt with the zoning board of appeals, and the way I drafted it was the restatement was to make the council the zoning board of appeals. And then there was a section on violations of the ordinance and how they'd be dealt with, and how folks who violated the ordinance would be dealt with, and so on. And the existing ordinance was pretty crude, and my redraft is more sophisticated, but my redraft depends, there's a village downstate with a pretty good ordinance, a modern ordinance. So what I did was I took those two sections from their ordinance and I tailored it for the village. and I talked about this last year and so on. But that there hasn't been a really good time to get to this. But this village has, you know, a pretty good ordinance right straight through. My problem is that I'm not sure necessarily that I'm doing everything exactly right, because this is not my area of expertise. There are attorneys who have this expertise, and there are non-attorney groups, companies that do this kind of thing. They have an attorney on staff or whatever, but they're the folks
I
who
was
charge
just-
the big bucks.
Maybe the approach is, again, if we can find one drafted, but then the only expense you pay for is to have
I
somebody
think I,
review it.
you know, I could give you a sample. I can go online and find their entire ordinance, if I'm not mistaken, and print it out for you. So I'll look for that, and I'll drop it by the village office sometime this week, and that could be a starting point for you.
Here's something that people can think about, because some people like the board, you know, like the selected board. The council, and this is only my belief, I believe the council should be the zoning board, and the only reason I say that, I have sat on other zoning boards in the past for the village, and there were times where we didn't meet for years.
And that has been the problem.
And-
When there was an issue that came up last year, early this year, on zoning regarding a garage, and there was no zoning board of appeals. So at one meeting, we kind of improvised, and some people sitting in the audience agreed to serve, and some people on the council agreed to serve, and so on. And it didn't work out all that well.
Yeah.
Because the problem was that the petition for a variance had been sitting for some months before we got to this point, you know, put together this, cobbled together this zoning board of appeals, so to speak. And one part of the problem too is that we have so few applications for variance that whether it's the village council or whether it's a separate zoning board of appeals, people really don't understand the process. And so they got to be brought up to speed. Somebody has to talk with them and give them some ideas of what the standards are that they apply when they're making a decision on a petition.
And I think we're not putting the cart before the
Yeah,
horse, so I mean, that'll
Okay,
be.
for the future, but
But
that's
those are
what-
the two big problems. We don't have somebody ready to go in the meeting, and whoever we give the task to, they need to be
And we
done.
need, but no, we did.
But there's no question, we need a better zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance, there have been changes in the statutes and so on, and the zoning ordinance that we have is obsolete in some places.
I have a question about that. With the Michigan Municipal League, since we pay our dues for that, they have information on staff.
They have lots of information, but they're not gonna do this for you.
Well, they're not gonna do it for us, but
If
if we
they
had
did,
help, we
they
have
would
questions.
put all of these people who charge $12,000 to $20,000 out of business. But one of the big problems in putting together an ordinance is deciding what you want to do with the different districts. There's a residential, there's commercial, there's maybe industrial, and then there's maybe a combined or whatever. So we got that, and that might serve still. So that's one of the big things that you have to decide when you're putting together an ordinance. And if we haven't had a lot of change there, we can still go with that. But then we build the ordinance around it, and that would save some effort and time.
And again, this is premature, so
Is that
maybe we can move
Yeah.
on.
I'll see if I
Don't
can
be
run
sorry,
more
Eric.
ordinances.
Don't be sorry.
And Joe- Joe-
But
Okay,
that's all,
okay.
everybody learns.
So Leah, DDA.
All right.
No, because their minutes haven't been,
They haven't,
their minutes haven't been approved yet.
You're not accepting the minutes, you're just accepting the report.
you know, to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we never do, yeah. I mean, we don't do it with the DDA.
I know.
It's not that, right?
Oh, you got a smart paper?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so just a couple updates. To start with, wanted to let you guys know the 4th of July parade event. The parade will be at 2, but the event will kind of be from 1 to 5. We'll start the kids out, getting their bikes decorated and at 1, and then hopefully have them ready to go about 2. So street closures, I'll continue to work with streets department and our police department as far as timing, all that stuff in the township as well. And I'll have an insurance certificate to you shortly, probably the end of the week, that lists the village as additional indemnity. I don't know, whatever it is we're supposed to do that the insurance agent told me to do, will be done. So that's update there. Wanted to let you know that the DDA did, since we last spoke, I believe, we applied for a facade grant through MEDC. We won't probably be hearing back on that for a while.
What kind of grant is that?
This facade grant. Yep. And then we also, just this past weekend, applied for a $5,000 marketing grant through Booker, and I'm guessing it will be a while before we hear that. If you saw the footage of the water going through their office, I don't imagine it'll be a while before we hear that. Anyway, but we did apply for a marketing grant as well. I have 2 asks for you today. The first one is, I believe I mentioned it previously, the National Park Service offers a technical support grant. So it's not actually funding. It would be technical assistance through a national park team that would not be the people who work here, probably would be sent from elsewhere. But what they do is offer services to communities for essentially recreation planning, outdoor activities, increasing people's access to parks, people's access to trail systems, things like this. So what I would ask of the village is, and we don't have any financial commitment in this, but we would be asking them to provide us with the planning services. So like where you're spending $10,000, $20,000 for a recreation plan, we would hopefully be able to get that done for us free. So what I would just like is, this grant application is due June 30, and what I would like from the council is just a letter that we would agree to participate. Again, there's no financial commitment, but they might want to hold like a public planning thing where people can come and look at what recreation areas we have. We'll have to, if we actually succeeded in receiving this grant for technical assistance, I think a team would come in and work with us, work with the council, work with, say, the DDA, the Planning Commission, on what we want to see happen with recreation here. So it's very process oriented, as opposed to, it's not going to be, oh, we'll give you $10,000 to build a signage on your trail. So that's what I would ask, is for someone to make a motion to just, that the council submit a letter of support that goes in with this grant.
Okay, is there a question or is there a motion?
Yeah. Any questions? That's the next thing that the last thing is what you got paperwork for.
Okay, so is there a motion that the village would support this team coming in and looking at our recreational facilities?
Right, and then who's going to oversee this now?
Would be through the National Park
National
Service.
Park, yeah, that's that. I'll make a motion to support.
Okay, Burge, is there a second?
I'll support.
Sandy? All right, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, okay, great.
So,
Go
I
ahead.
might suggest that you might put together a draft of this letter and get it to the office.
Absolutely.
And, so that way they'll know what you're looking for.
Right.
And get something pretty close to what will do the job. And if they want to embellish it or tweak it, so we have.
Fantastic.
Okay.
I will make that happen. And then the last thing I have for you is what I actually gave you paperwork for. So, the DDA would like to purchase the parcel in the 400 block. You can see there's a big parcel number there. If you look at the photo, this is the easiest way for me to kind of understand where that lot is. It's the one heavily outlined in red.
So, does the village own property close by?
So the
Village
village,
6 or 7?
yes, the village owns lots 6 and 7, so those two outlined in the teal or greenish color. So this would be a contiguous then, if we purchase, if the DDA were to purchase, and the village owns the pieces in teal, the DDA would be purchasing the piece in red. So that altogether would come up with 126 feet of frontage on Fifth Street. So anyway, the DDA would like to purchase this property. Unfortunately, and I will take blame for this, I did not understand how this whole process worked. So you folks have already said you didn't want to purchase the property, and I kind of found out, oh, hey, the DDA could have purchased this property. And then I spoke with our Fulton County treasurer, and that third piece of paper there, she laid out for me, oh, this is the process when we have a piece of property that's tax foreclosed. She explained to me, this is how this works. And I apologize, I did not understand how this process works. The DDA can't purchase that property unless the council, says, you get the first right of refusal kind of thing. The council has to say, yes, we want it, or no, we don't. And then if the council, the village doesn't want it, then it would go, the land bank would then ask adjacent property owners, which would be Jane. They would ask her if she wants it. If she doesn't want it, then it goes to auction. And then if nobody wants it at auction, then she might bundle it with other parcels.
Well, the village
And then-
has a chance before that to
Yes,
get it for free.
Right.
And then, yes, the village has a
So
chance.
that's, it's all in the list.
We already had Tuesday last month.
Yeah.
I saw it.
So did she go to Jane already?
No, so I asked her if she would wait, because we had a DDA meeting. I asked at the DDA meeting if the DDA would like to purchase it, and the DDA said yes. And then I asked Kathleen to wait until I could ask you folks tonight.
What's the footage on the
18
street?
feet in the front.
Just 18?
So it's,
Only 18
no, I think it's,
It's not even more, because it's part of
It's
lot
28, I
seven, part of
believe.
No, according
lot
to this,
eight.
it says 18 feet.
so it's the south,
South 18 feet and north
Right.
10 feet.
so that would be
28.
Oh, yeah, okay, that is.
Yeah.
That's a half a lot.
which is still, right,
That's
it's
not
not
a
very
lot.
much space.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Anyway, the purpose of the DDA purchasing it would be, one, we would want to be able to have that whole area for redevelopment. If you can get it as a chunk, a nice big chunk, it is more attractive to a developer. If you have somebody else own this piece, and then we say, oh, well, the village wants to sell you these 2 lots, and this person says, oh, well, I'll sell you this lot for an extra 20 grand, or, when you get to that point, because we're not at the point right now where somebody's probably putting in a 3-story building there. But eventually, hopefully, that could happen. In the shorter term, I've had some conversations with the clinic manager at Spires Cuna, and they have interest in, they have doctors in their practices that are interested in seeing like community vegetable gardens, something like you might see on the, I can't remember what street garden it's called, but in Hancock, maybe some raised bed gardens there. Nothing that would be a permanent structure, something that can go if we want, to say the opportunity arises where the village can sell that property and have it developed. But so there's some short-term things that we can do to make it a little more attractive, landscaping, possibly some veggie gardening, something like that, but nothing that would have to stay there forever so that we can develop it. So what I would need you folks to do is you'd have to rescind your previous decision to not take the lot and then offer to accept the lot, and the DDA would be covering $1,176.14 and the $30 title.
So who would own the property?
The the DDA would own the
Okay.
property.
But the
Yeah.
village has to have a purpose for it, and the purpose would be the village has to, they have to be the blind one that they can deed it into the DDA. Because the DDA can't just do it.
No,
For $1,200, geez.
Right, and that's my, yes.
Wait,
The options.
but it's free. Yeah, well, that's the problem.
So
The jury doesn't want it,
And
then it goes to auction, and then if nobody buys it at auction, the treasurer comes back to us and says, you can have it for free.
But the problem is, if somebody
week.
buys it at the auction, you're gone.
It's not,
That's it.
and
But Jane is the next step. Jane might want this thing.
exactly, so my point is, if we can preempt any of those situations where we lose control of this nice contiguous 126 feet, I think would be good. And I believe Rick had mentioned that somebody had came into his business with interest in purchasing it. And I think there is probably going to be, and Kathleen Beatty told me that there was interest from someone to just purchase the lot, and they can, it doesn't even matter, they can do whatever they want with it, it's their.
$1,200.
$1,200.
DDA will control this.
Right.
And it just
Okay.
makes,
It would
My
apply to
opinion,
the
last
tax
time,
roll, but
we said we wanted to wait and get it for free, because most people would not buy that small of a lot.
Right, but Jane.
yeah.
Number two.
So let Sandy finish, let Sandy finish.
Number two, if we say, okay, that we're going to allow the DDA to do that, you have to remember, DDA money is Calumet Village's money. If we take that lot, we still have to insure it, so that's more money. And if we are able to get this lot for free, which what we said last month, that would be great, because that would be the two bigger lots to be able to sell. If the DDA gets it, it's not tax money coming in, revenue.
But
My
think
opinion
about it,
is still try to get it for free.
I mean, my thing is, if Jane buys it, I assume it goes on the tax rolls for $1,100. So that's the
Right.
purchase price.
I know it's not
So-
much,
right.
but
Yeah.
it's still,
And my bigger thing is, okay, so since she owns that lot immediately to the south,
yeah.
she buys that for $1,100, and then she turns around and sells the whole thing for $10,000. You know, I
That-
mean,
that's
we're enriching her.
business.
Right.
That's business.
That's her business.
I think,
But you just gave us a presentation last month how we should wait. It
And,
was
and,
you
and,
who
and
gave
that's
us
right,
the
and that's because I
presentation.
didn't know that it would be offered to the adjoining property owner. And that was, I did not know that. So,
two years ago, I went down to Grayling to bid on 80 acres of swamp in Keweenaw County. There were two other parcels in Keweenaw County that were being bid on too. And basically, these were properties with houses that were tumbling down. And so we didn't expect that anybody would show up to bid on that 80-acre parcel. But there was somebody there. And so if we hadn't shown up, we would have been out of luck. So we're talking about developing the village and creating opportunities to help people who want to build or expand businesses or so on in the area. If you have nothing to offer them, where are you going to go? And I think that for $1,200 to expand the property that's there right now just makes all kinds of sense rather than.
my sense is there's no interest. So, I mean, I'll ask if there's a motion to purchase the property.
Well, I'm
If there's not,
okay, I'm kind of thinking if the DDA got south 18 feet, then they own
28.
two complete full lots. If Jane picked up the north 10 of lot 7, she'd be able to put in those horseshoe pits that she can't go because the direction they are now, or they would be because the sun's in the eyes when they throw at night.
When
I don't know,
when
but
When I talked to Peggy, she said there wasn't enough room to put in the pits of the land she bought for whatever reason. I didn't ask her the reason. I didn't ask her, because it would have been where she was.
So let me ask, is there a motion to rescind our decision not to take the lot? Because if there isn't, then there's no point going on. Okay,
I would like, if that's the case, then maybe the village, seeing we own the other 2 lots. Right?
who owns 6 and 7? Is it the
We
village?
do.
or the
village.
DDA?
We don't, not the DDA.
Right.
I agree with Sandy, either.
Maybe
it's all
the village
DDA or all
needs to
village.
purchase it, like I was suggesting last month.
Mhm.
Okay.
And if that comes up for sale, like she said, if the hospital wants it, then they're gonna purchase it for what it's worth, the 2 big lots.
In the meantime, you could, give Jane Harvey permission.
To put her horseshoe pits in.
Yeah,
And-
the village would still own the property so that it would be available for some project in the future. But in the meantime, she'd have some horseshoe pits.
That's a very
Well,
good idea.
I mean, then is there a motion to have the village purchase it then?
I would horseshoe pits.
I would rather say one or the other. I think breaking it up between 2 entities is
I
not
think it would be
good.
great for the village to own all of that. I don't believe the DDA was necessarily interested in owning that just for us to control it so much as us, meaning, like, it would be better for us, the village, whether you think, not the DDA. I think it would be fantastic if the village would,
Large
Be interested.
parcel.
yes, that's the point, and whatever.
That's a great
whatever-
idea.
yeah, so, anyway.
give the village the money to buy it?
Sorry, yeah, let's not go there.
But Dave, with the
Well, that's
new
awesome.
information that we have though, because before we thought, we didn't know that it was gonna be offered to the next
Right.
property owners. And we thought that it would probably go to the auction bundle. And now, both of those are correct. Yes, Kathy Bating, she said that lot's gonna be
That
standalone.
is the
somewhere
correct
by-
order.
So the likelihood of it coming back to us, not being purchased, is very high.
Well, hold on a second. I talked to her, and that's not exactly what she said. I said, explain to me. She said, first of all, we have the option.
Read that.
And then we can say yes or no. If we say no, then it's offered to the adjacent property, which is Jane. If Jane says no, then it goes to auction the end of July. If nobody buys it at that said auction, then she calls us and says,
I don't
you can have it for nothing. This is what she told me. We can have it for nothing. If we say no, we want it for nothing, then it goes into the bundled land bank thing. And I said, do you mean it goes with 2 other properties? And she said, no, it would be part of 22 bundled properties. So we do have a second chance there. Because I
Well,
physically
the
talked to
only
her.
second chance is if it's not, if L&L doesn't take it, and
I
if
understand.
it doesn't get sold at auction.
Exactly.
So.
Well, this is why we're talking about the village buying it and allowing Jane to put her horseshoes there. That would make sense.
Total sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, in that case then, is there a motion to have the village?
Okay, I make a motion to rescind last month's motion.
Yeah, I did.
And then I make a motion for us, the village, to purchase that lot.
With the, I'd like to see you add the caveat that Jane is allowed to use it for her horseshoe pit until we're ready to do something with it. As an assumption, like draw something up or at least it'll get used until we have something better to go there.
I would say that,
Amend.
but yes, I
Amend
would
your motion.
amend it to add, Jane can use it, but she is to sign a contract
Yeah.
that if the village sells that lot,
Yeah.
that whole lot,
Mm-hmm.
then her,
Her
And-
pit
and-
goes-
her bid goes.
And I don't know if, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but I don't know about insurance too, if it's horseshoe pits and somebody gets hurt. I mean, I assume she has.
She used the other lot. We had a deal with her for years and years and years where she paid $1 to use that lot or something, or do something.
Give her a lease.
Yeah, something like a little lease, and then she's
Like
from
all
leasing.
on 30 days notice.
Yeah, right.
And she
Like
paid
$1.
$1 a year or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so-
Simple responsibility for her.
Okay, so we have a motion to rescind the village's decision not to take that property with the specification that the village would be the owner of that property and the lease be drawn up to allow Jane's L&L to have horseshoe pits on that property, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so is there a second to that?
You know, I'd like to hear from the man in the audience in the back row. Did you have something you wanted to say? No? Okay.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I will second.
George?
Can I just add one thing to Leah? If the hospital is very interested in like having raised beds and stuff within the village of Calumet, is there a spot over by our building over by Agassi Field where they could do something over there? That space seems to be so underutilized.
And I think, I mean, you could certainly, I won't hold the council up with all of that discussion, but there's a lot of spaces that could be made available, I think, for that, but I think that the lots in the 400 block, because there is such vacancy there and need for improved visual impact, I think that positive activity and life there would be a nice reason to have a garden or something there, but that's certainly up to this council to decide probably at a later date. I just thank you and, yeah.
Okay, well, we still have to vote. Still have to vote. Okay, so I'll do a roll call. Sandy?
Yes.
Verge?
Did you second?
Yes.
Did I?
Sandy made the motion, Verge, you seconded it.
Okay.
Okay.
I say yes.
Okay, Peggy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. All right, next is HDC. We got questions for Chris. You have the minutes in front of you. Chris, is there anything you want to say? No?
Maybe tomorrow night.
All right. So any questions?
Chris, were you able to find out about the insurance carriers? How some people couldn't get insurance. There was something last month.
Yes, some insurance companies will not insure historic buildings for replacement cost. So if you're going out and saying, I want to get quotes from 10 different insurance companies, there's going to be some of those insurance companies that will not quote you if you have a building in a historic district and you're looking for replacement cost insurance.
Oh,
Because it costs a fortune to replace
Yeah.
historic.
yeah, you can't.
And
How
how
they're
much
afraid
is
of what your
Yeah.
historic district commission will tell you what you need to do with your building, I'm assuming.
No, we're talking
Never
about
mind.
insurance.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, any other questions for Chris? All
Do
right.
the terms expire in July or December under HDC? I know we had trouble keeping track of when terms expired on the DDA, the HDC, and I thought maybe if we
All
posted a
terms were
sign.
moved to begin in January, so through December.
Okay, but do you do like 2 every year of the 6? Okay, so by the end of December, then you just looking at filling 2 seats. Okay, but somebody's got to keep track because it was such a mess, nobody knew whose term expired when and what anybody was doing, so you're the chair, right? So you're keeping track, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, then we'll move on to committee reports. So clerk.
I'm typing this while we're doing it.
Okay.
Should we go on to a different one, or you're ready?
Yeah, this is the office reports. For mine, I was here yesterday and to set up my passwords and everything on the computer. I set up some templates for different forms and that. Getting acquainted with the new computer. I have the same brand at home. It's a laptop, not a ThinkPad, but similar. So it's pretty easy to get accustomed to it. Came back finished today and work was up and running, setting things up. And then review the agenda for the meeting. Review different applications on the system and that's about it. Just getting acquainted with the new system and we'll be able to do more and more as I get more acquainted and have the time to come here and work on things, which would be very nice. I will be at home working on everything on my own equipment now, so I'll be able to use village equipment. So, it's nice. And thank you everyone for wanting me to do that.
And you have your own address, right? Because since Darla Payne, her email didn't get to you, the clerk that was supposed to receive it, you've got your own address and people can
I do have
contact you
email
now.
addresses.
Okay, and what is it?
I don't even remember.
I think it's VOC.clerk.
Yeah, I
Is it
think,
VOC
yeah,
dot?
VOC.clerk. Yeah.